Hey, good afternoon. It's like 3 p.m. here in Dubai. It's a Monday. Yes, it's my off day. After a long time shooting a video. Why long time? Many things were happening. Your exams were going on, so I didn't want to disturb. And I was making myself available to all my enrolled candidates because they had exams. So whenever they wanted to ask anything, I just wanted to make sure that I'm there. So that takes a toll, but then, yeah, as their mentor, I feel their exam is as much as my exam too, because where will they ask if they have a doubt? I should be available. So yeah, I was, and I was very happy with their feedbacks after the exam, as I think only the paper one was a little tough with new scenarios. But then that is expected. ADC will get out and dish out some new questions. They just cannot have the entire paper repeated. But they had like 80% repeats, like on the concepts and the questions that I had given the mocks. So all of my candidates were like, thank you so much for giving your mocks. And we just felt as if we are solving the mocks in the exam. Like they were all very well prepared for it, because the way I've designed my mocks, and I keep on telling them how to time themselves, and they were all like, we had your voice in our head while reading the keywords, and there were interesting keywords apart from the common ones like best option, initial management, accept, wrong. There were one more keyword that the ADC added. It was like of utmost importance, utmost, and impending also, something like this. So yeah, nice adjectives and nice keywords being added. So overall, since the candidates were very happy about the pattern and their confidence level was good, of course I was pleased. So one of the questions that came in the exam, which I'm sure nobody expected, but on the hindsight, it's interesting to know that the ADC is actually seeing how would you be integrated in their clinical practice system, and so they considered this as an important question, and that's why they asked. Yeah, it's a nice question, but of course, since nobody expected it and nobody is actually practicing there, they wouldn't know this. So, when the candidates gave this question, I did my own research and found out articles, and I've shared it on the group, and I'm going to share it with you all now. So, benefit it, like, and expect more questions. See, when there is a concept, what do I mean by a concept? I mean a topic, and one question is asked from the topic. Expect other questions also will be manufactured or fabricated and constructed, and they are also going to come in your exam. Maybe the same question will not come, but different questions will come. Like for example, say I tell you the direction of a house, for example. Okay, so your exam, suppose I bring in a new topic and I'm like, this house, particular house is located here, and how do you reach there? That is your question. Don't expect that the next time also the same question will be asked. The next question can be in another exam, like the following exams. How many rooms are present in that house? Huh? How many doors are there? How many windows are there? How many bedrooms are there? And which direction is the hall facing, etc. Similarly, when we are going to read this article, I am going to hypothetically form questions so that you take each paragraph as an answer. And out of the same topic, we are going to make 4 or 5 different questions so that you're well prepared for your next exam, right? This is how you study a new topic. Understand? You just don't study one question, you study the topic. And then you imagine all possible questions that can be asked from that topic, and then you give the exam. So when another question from the same topic is being asked, you're well prepared. So yeah, let's start. A physically disabled girl enters your clinic with her dog. What will you do? What is the keyword here? physically disabled. Okay, which means what? The patient is having a disability. She's basically not normal like a person who's able to walk, etc. Disabled. I'm stressing on this word because when a person is disabled, they do need a support. Okay, and Australia is a Western developed country, and their infrastructures are supporting the patients and people basically to have a support system to who are disabled or specially abled or have cancer or have anxiety and stress, because they do give importance to these things as uh, this is their way, this is their culture, and this is how it has been with them since a long, long years. I know most of the candidates here who are giving the ADC exam, most of them, not all of them, are from the Asian countries, India, Pakistan, etc. For us, this concept is a little alien because we usually, I mean, we do have people who have dogs, but it's not that common because of the population and the living arrangements and the financial aspect of it. And we have more people around, basically. Uh, so the concept of, because I'm stressed and I need to carry my dog to whichever place, or I am not physically able to, so I have to carry my pet who's trained for this particular purpose. In India, Pakistan, or elsewhere, is a bit of an alien concept, and so we never encounter such situations, and neither have I faced the situation in my clinic. Or else, even if people have pets, they will not get them into the clinics or etc. Like I have never seen that, neither have I heard any person saying that today a patient came with the dog with them. But we have seen Western movies and serials on Netflix where we see such scenarios happening. But you as a dentist must never thought of, must have never thought of that such a question will be asked to you in the exam. But now that it has, you have to be prepared. Got it? So in Australia, basically, it is well accepted to have a well-trained therapy dog to be with you all the time. Okay. So now what happens when such a person who is either stressed, very anxious, is licensed by the doctor to have a pet to manage their anxiety and stress, and or is physically abled or is undergoing a cancer treatment, and that person gets a therapy dog with them, what do you do? So the options were allow the dog in the room, leave the. Okay, I'm sorry. God outside. It's dog outside. Okay, you can laugh. Go ahead. The Yeah. My God, I'm doing such a big spelling mistake out here. Yeah. So leave the dog outside, but in direct view of the patient. Okay. Politely say that you cannot allow the dog inside. Leave the dog at the reception where it will be looked after. Allow the dog in the room with the muzzle. Okay, I've again written God. Wow. OG. So, yeah, these were the options. Go ahead, laugh as much as you want. It's okay. I'm a human being. I can make mistakes. So, yeah. Now, see here, each option is right for a different question. Okay. For this particular question, before we answer this, let's go and read more about the theory from the ADC itself. So this is ada.org.australia. This is by the Australian Dental Council. This article is published. It's online. You can click on this link, go on Google, search it. But let's just discuss and formulate questions on this, understand the theory. So whichever question then is posted on this topic, you're able to answer it. So dogs and dentistry, appropriate management in practice environment. Now, there are three situations under which a dog may enter a dental practice. Three situations. Remember these situations. The first is when the patient has a disability and uses an assistance dog, also known as a service dog. This is what our question was, right? A physically disabled patient. So, if a patient is having disability and has an assistance dog, also known as a service dog, remember these two words also because the question may say a disabled patient enters with an assistance dog or a service dog. Then the dog will enter the dental practice. That means the dog will enter the door of your dental clinic. The second is when a patient or a staff member brings in their own pet with them to the clinic. So a normal patient, not a disabled patient, a healthy normal patient gets his own pet dog. It is allowed. A staff member gets his or her own pet dog. It's allowed. Okay. And the third is when the dental practice has a therapy dog. It means your own clinic has a dog who's specially trained for therapy, which allows patient to come in contact with it in the waiting room to reduce the anxiety. So this particular dog, therapy dog, is owned by the clinic, and this dog is trained in such a way that it allows other people to come in contact with it to reduce their anxiety while they're waiting in the dental office. Okay. uh which is great. It's nice. It requires a lot of maintenance, and we're going to read more about it. Out here in Dubai, we don't have a dog as a therapy dog. We have a coffee machine. Okay, I'm not comparing. I don't mean disrespect to anybody, but yeah, I mean, I'm saying this probably because I'm personally scared of dogs. Uh, I'm scared. The dogs are lovely beings, okay, but somehow I have the fear to go near and touch them, and if any dog barks on me, I'll practically run away. But having said that, I think it's those big, huge dogs that I'm scared of. But if they're small and tiny and puppy, I might just keep on looking. And if the dog looks at me with puppy eyes, I may just touch and cuddle. But that's about me, okay? So if I go to a dental clinic who has a therapy dog, and if he's there at the reception waiting room, I'll personally be very, very scared, honestly. That will give me more stress. So I'm just saying about me. But dogs are lovely creatures, and they are so lovable. Otherwise, it's a nice concept. I mean, it's new for me too. I never imagined dental clinics having dogs. If anybody has here who's listening to this video, please post your comments and reviews how it goes for you. But in Western worlds, people have more pets. They are more open to accepting pets, which is a great, great thing. And I wish like this habit gets incorporated in the rest of the world as well, like as common as it is there. I'm not saying it's not existing, but it's not as common as it is there. So anyways, uh, so yeah, these are the three situations. So first is if a patient is physically disabled, assistance or a service dog is allowed. Second is pet, patient or the staff, and the third is a therapy dog. I'm just pausing this video. My husband's calling. Yes, so I'm back. Yeah, so we just discussed the three situations. Now let's understand each type of situation. Assistance or service dogs. These support dogs are rigorously trained to facilitate the participation of people with disability, sight loss, epilepsy, etc., in various aspects of personal and public life and provide an essential function. Fair enough. These dogs are permitted in the dental practice, including clinical areas with a patient. Now, this particular line is so important because this is what exactly our question is based on. These dogs are permitted in the dental practice, including clinical areas, meaning in your own clinical operatory, the dog will come. Which dog? The assistants or the service dogs. Okay. Now, let's go back to our question since we are discussing this. A physically disabled girl enters your clinic with a dog. What will you do? Allow the dog in the room? Yes. You see, this becomes your answer. Leave the dog outside but in the direct view of the patient? No. The article specifically mentions the dog will be allowed in the clinical areas, not just the waiting room. But it's only for the assistant or the therapy dog, service dog, basically. Politely say that you cannot allow the dog inside. You cannot. If you're a dentist like me, who's afraid of the dogs, still you cannot refuse the patient to get their own assistant or the service dog inside the room. So start liking the dogs, okay? If you are afraid like me. Like there are people I'm sure who are a little afraid, right? And there are people who are like literally in love with the dogs. Any dog they'll just go and catch and start kissing it. I get it. So yeah. Uh about that, yeah. So leave the dog at the reception where it will be looked after. No. Allow the dog in the room with the muzzle. Now, option one and option five. Allow the dog in the room just like that. Allow the dog in the room with the muzzle. What is a muzzle? You have seen that plastic ring line thing with like this. Basically, making sure that the dog is not able to bite anybody or go and bite on something else also. So, since the article does not say that you have to put a muzzle on assistant or a service dog, you don't have to put a muzzle. You have to allow the dog as it is. Understood? So, this is your answer that allow the dog in the clinical room. That's all. A plain, simple, straight answer. Got it? Now, private pet. There is no obligation to accept the private pets of staff or patients in a dental practice. These animals pose the same risk as will be discussed below for the therapy dogs. Okay, great. Uh, so, in the dental clinic, basically in the waiting room, not your clinical operatory, therapy dogs, which is owned by the clinic, assistant or service dog, which is for the disabled patient or a cancer patient or a stress anxiety patient, and a private pet that is of a normal patient, a normal healthy patient, or a staff. All these three types of dogs are allowed in the waiting room, but only one dog is allowed in the dental operatory, and that is the assistance or the service dog. Take out pen or pencil, write in your notes this point because questions will be asked which type of dog is allowed, which type of dog is allowed in the waiting room, which type of dog is allowed in the clinical operatory, which type of dog is allowed with which individual. You understand? Lateral questions. So when there is no obligation to accept, it means you can say no for a pet. You cannot say no for an assistant or a service dog, but you can say no for a private pet. You understand? You can ask the patient, a healthy patient, a healthy patient, to keep the pet outside. You don't have the obligation to accept. You can choose to accept, but you don't have an obligation to accept. So you have the right to say no to a private pet in the clinical operatory, but you cannot say no in the waiting room. Getting my point? So if you're confused, read this article, pause this video, go back, see what I've said. Therapy dogs. The literature on using therapy dogs in healthcare is centered around use with conditions such as cancer, chronic pain, or dementia, where a trained person accompanies a specially trained dog and completes specific interventions, which improves the mental well being of the patient. The positive results reflect specialized therapy dog training, testing, and certification, as well as careful planning to ensure interactions will be positive, safe, and not disruptive. Part of the handler special trainings around the infection control protocols. The training process extends well beyond the obedience training, including veterinary assessments of the dogs. Dentists need to take into account blah blah blah. Basically, what does a therapy dog means? It means what is a therapy dog? The therapy dog is not got by the patient. The therapy dog is owned by the clinic. I am keeping, like I keep other things in my clinic, I am keeping an animal too. And that's my therapy dog, and he's trained specifically for this purpose. My eyes are hurting right now. Okay, I have to wear the specs, but there's blue light reflection. But anyways, let's focus on the therapy dogs. So if you are choosing to keep a therapy dog in your clinic, to assist patients for anxiety and stress management. Then you need to have two front desks. Two. Remember this figure two because question will be asked on this if they want to ask on this concept. Two front desk staff will have to be trained up in handling the dog and can make sure it's appropriately supervised. Two are needed to provide cover when one is absent. These two staff need to organize between them who takes the dog out regularly during the day for comfort stops, who provides its food, water, and bedding, who arranges for its periodic veterinary visits for tests and vaccinations, and who cares for the dog after hours. And when the practice is closed on vacation and public holidays. Basically, the clinic is owning a dog, like how some clinics keep an aquarium and they dedicate a particular staff to manage that aquarium. It's cleaning, changing the water, feeding the fish, who's taking care when the clinic is closed. Same applies to the dog. So two front desks will be there who will be specifically trained for this purpose. You understand? The risks of patient infection associated with animal interactions include zoonosis, infections contracted from the dog, and the dog acting as a reservoir for infectious agents being spread. It is also important to remember that other potentially infectious agents can be carried by healthy dogs like Salmonella, Campylobacter, Leptospirilla, Giardia, dermatophytes, Toxocara, and hookworms. Write this down. Memorize it. Put it on your dashboard. Question can be asked. These are the potentially infectious agents that can be carried by healthy dogs, except, and they'll give four of these options and one some other. Like for example, if I give the option, uh, these are the infections bacteria can be carried by the healthy dog, except. Okay, and I give the option as Salmonella, Campylobacter, Leptospirilla, Giardia, and Streptococcus. What will be your answer? Streptococcus, right? Because that's not mentioned. And how do you know it's not mentioned? Because you memorized it. When did you memorize it? When you wrote it down? When did you write it down? When you were listening to this video and you put it on your dashboard, right? So you see, I have just made like 4 or 5 questions so far on this article. And if at all questions like this come in your exam and you mark it wrong, you are yourself to blame because I had told you about it, right? I will say I told you so, correct? So the risk of infections being transmitted in this manner are amplified when the dog licks the face of the people and when the patient is immunocompromised. So when there's increased risk of transferring the infectious agents from a healthy dog when the dog is licking the face of the people or when the patient is immunocompromised. Finally, dentists need to be aware of the associated legal risk from having a therapy dog. So if I'm keeping a dog in my clinic, I have to be aware of the legal risks because then I'm responsible for the dog and its activities. I have to make sure that the dog is not harming people in the waiting room or property damage of the patients in the waiting room. I'll be bearing the legal expenses for it, right? And compliance issues with the term of a lease if it does not permit animals. Adverse reactions from patients to a dog must also be considered as a possibility, both psychological and immunological. Like, see, in Australia and other Western countries, they sue you even if they get scared if they are in your property. I really don't know. That's why the lawyers make a lot of money out there. And they have big, big buildings of the law firms. When I was in Melbourne, every block had a huge 20 plus floor buildings of lawyers, like big, big. I mean, apparently people sue each other a lot over petty issues. So yeah, that's Western world. Uh, in the latter instance, there may be problems even if the dog is not physically in the same room as traces of hair will be present. Some patient has specific fears of dog or may have significant allergies to animal hair. So imagine you have a therapy dog and a dog is a dog, he'll lose hair, it will be here and there. So if it's not cleaned properly and for example a little bit of hair is lying on a couch and a patient walks into your clinic who has an allergy to dog hair and he sits on that couch and he contracts an allergy, They sue you, and you have to pay for the legal damages, right? So you as a dentist need to be aware of all these things if you're keeping a therapy dog. So yeah, questions to ask. If you're having a therapy dog, you'll have these questions, right? So when a patient comes in, you have to ask, are you immunocompromised? Patient says yes. You do not get the therapy dog out in the waiting room. You take the dog inside. If a patient is allergic to dog, you can take the dog inside. So it's your liability to ask. So anyways, I hope now this is clear. Straightforward, in the waiting room, three dogs will be allowed: a pet, the assistance or the service dog, and the therapy dog. Inside your clinical operatory, you cannot say no. Basically, mandatory, an assistant or a service dog will be allowed for a disabled patient. You can say no to a pet, but you can also allow a pet. So that is at your discretion. You understand? You can say no to a pet and you can say yes to a pet. But for sure, you cannot say no to an assistant or a service dog. Therapy dog is owned by your own clinical practice and you limit that dog in the waiting room itself. Get it? So now, if anybody asks you questions on this, you should be able to answer. Correct? So yeah, new topic for me. I hope it was helpful, and yeah, if you want me to make a video on some specific topic, leave in the comments. I'm happy to help. And like always, I enjoy messages from everybody around the globe. I had just received a very beautiful message from Ingrid from Brazil. She said she watched a lot of my videos and that tremendously helped her in her exam, and she's not one of my enrolled candidates. So yeah, the videos is for everybody, and many people message me, keep saying that we are so thankful you're making this, because we understand you're just doing it for us, like the good work, not trying to publicize my course or making money out of it. I'm not. I always said, I always missed a guidance in my life, and instead of cribbing about it, if I can guide you all, be the change you want to be seen in the world, like that. So, but it helps when you start changing, when you start guiding selflessly. Guidance comes to you from various other sources by itself. Like the world gives you back what you give. So I'm always thankful. I feel guided in other areas of my life where I didn't know I would be doing anything there if I was not guided by certain people. So, yeah, it's not just me helping you. I get help too, and I'm thankful for all of it. I'm grateful for all of it. So, it's interesting to read. I like to do research. Teaching you all is also a therapy for me. Somehow, I really enjoy it. It enriches me, and your messages are motivation. It just spreads positivity, I feel, like you become happy, you send me a happy message, I become happy, and then the cycle continues like that. So speaking of happiness, my car. So I'll tell you what happened. So I have a car which is 2013 model, and since past 3 weeks, it was vibrating very badly below the speed of 60. Okay. Initially, I was like, it will get okay. Then it started showing that engine sign. So I told my husband, you know what, my car is giving me trouble, and it's starting, but it's vibrating like crazy below the speed of 60. It's as if like this, like this. He's like, it's okay. On a weekend, we'll take it to the garage. And so I kept driving it until the weekend came. And then he took this Saturday to the garage. And the garage person was like, you know what, your engines are misfiring. You have God's hand on your head. This car could have caught fire anytime. I got so shit scared. I was like, my God, I was driving this. I should have taken this more seriously. Then I thanked God profusely. So, anyways, they fixed that problem, and then they found a new problem, which is leaking of oil. And then they are like, you have to take out the entire engine, plug the leak, and it's gonna cost me like almost 5,000 dirhams. I'm like, dig into your emergency funds and get it. I'm planning to switch my car because it's a two-door Mini Cooper and it's becoming really difficult to drop my son to the nursery and take him back because I don't want him to sit on the front passenger seat. I want to sit him back. But it's such a hassle to keep on moving the seat again and again because it's a two-door. I want to upgrade it to a four-door. So yeah, now and I have to switch the car. I really liked my car, though would have to let it go now. And plus, yeah, after this problem, I'll be scared to drive it again. But though they are fixing it, and they are saying after fixed, it's gonna be good. So yeah, changes in life, and yeah, and that's what happening in my life. Some of the other thing keeps happening. I think as you age. So my son asked me a very nice question. He's 2.7, and I was getting him back today in taxi. So he was like, "Mummy, where is your car?" I think it's gone to the garage because it's become old. He's like, what makes a thing old? This was his question to me, and I was like, it's time. Time makes you old. So he was like, okay. And like, nice philosophical discussion happening with my 27-month-old son. I mean, you're not. The logical reasoning, like, what makes you old? It's time. So, yeah, have a nice day and bye bye.